It was a night like any other in the quiet town of Willow Creek. Lamps cast long shadows over empty streets, and the wind whispered secrets that no one was ready to hear. By morning, a discovery would shatter the calm. A crime so calculated, so meticulously planned, that it left even seasoned investigators questioning the very nature of its perpetrator. Who could commit such an act, and why? Tonight, we explore the chilling mind behind one of the most perplexing criminal cases of our time. Willow Creek was the kind of town where everyone knew each other. Shops lined the main street, children played until dusk, neighbors waved as if by instinct. Life was predictable, safe, routine. That predictability, however, would become the stage for something unthinkable. Sarah Bennett was a librarian in her mid-20s. Quiet, meticulous kind, the type of person everyone trusted. She lived alone in a small house at the edge of town. Every day she followed the same routines: morning coffee, cataloging books at the library, a walk along the river, and evenings by her fireplace reading. Nothing remarkable, nothing out of place. Yet to someone watching, every routine, every step was a clue, a pattern waiting to be exploited. For weeks, some townspeople noticed oddities: a shadow lurking near the library, a car parked outside Sarah's house at odd hours, lights flickering in the distance. Most dismissed it. Willow Creek was safe. That was the illusion. That illusion would be shattered on the night of September 12th. The night began quietly. The streets were empty. The river reflected the moonlight like a silent witness. At 11:47 p.m., a neighbor reported hearing faint footsteps outside Sarah's house. A door creaked. A soft thud echoed through the stillness, but by the time anyone investigated, it was too late. The crime scene investigators would later describe the scene as eerily precise. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was left to chance. Whoever did this had studied Sarah's routines, mapped the town's quietest hours, and chosen their moment with frightening accuracy. We often ask ourselves, what drives someone to commit such a crime? Hatred, obsession, or a fascination with control? Psychologists studying this case would later describe it as the work of a classic, calculated mind, someone who observes, learns, and exploits human behavior with terrifying skill. Sarah's last night was indistinguishable from any other. She locked her doors, checked her mail, and read by the fireplace. Outside, someone was watching, studying, planning, waiting. Every small decision Sarah made that night had already been anticipated by a mind that thrived on meticulous control. Every step she took had been predicted. Every door she closed, every lock she engaged was part of a puzzle designed by a mind that left no piece misplaced. And yet, for all the preparation, for all the planning, humans are unpredictable. That unpredictability is the only variable a calculated mind cannot control. It is what makes this case so fascinating. It is what makes it terrifying. At dawn, the first officer arrived at Sarah's home. Neighbors had called, concerned by the silence that had stretched far too long. The front door was locked, but a window at the back had been tampered with. Inside, the scene was immaculate, yet every detail pointed to one undeniable truth: Sarah had been attacked, and the assault had been deliberate, precise, and cold. Evidence suggested that the perpetrator had observed her for weeks. Footprints were minimal: no fingerprints, no DNA that could immediately lead to a suspect. It was as if the crime itself had been choreographed, a performance of cruelty and intelligence combined. The community was shaken. How could someone so calculated exist among them? How could someone plan such a crime and vanish without leaving a trace? And the question that would haunt investigators for months: why Sarah Bennett? Detectives scoured the town for leads. They interviewed neighbors, coworkers, anyone who had crossed paths with Sarah in the days and weeks before the crime. Patterns emerged: subtle anomalies in behavior. A figure seen repeatedly near the library. An unfamiliar car parked across the street, yet every lead seemed to evaporate before it could be fully traced. Psychologists reviewing the case would later note key traits consistent with a controlling, obsessive personality. The perpetrator demonstrated a deep understanding of human psychology, predicting reactions, anticipating routines, and manipulating circumstances to avoid detection. This was not random violence. It was a carefully crafted plan, executed with a patience that most people could scarcely imagine. And yet, even the most meticulous plans can falter. Small mistakes, overlooked details, human error, they are inevitable. These mistakes would become crucial in piecing together the identity of the criminal. Eventually, evidence led to a suspect, a person no one would have expected. A neighbor known for their quiet demeanor and unobtrusive habits suddenly found themselves under the glare of the courtroom lights. The trial was tense, the media captivated, the public horrified. Prosecutors presented evidence meticulously, linking small details into a coherent narrative. Defense attorneys argued carefully, emphasizing circumstantial ambiguities and human error. The psychological profile of the defendant became a central point. Could a person be capable of such calculated violence without detectable malice in ordinary life? After weeks of testimony, the verdict was delivered: guilty. The courtroom exhaled collectively, but for many, the question lingered: what drives someone to commit such a crime? Was justice truly served, or did the court merely provide closure to an unspeakable act? To understand the mind behind this crime, we must step into territory few dare to explore. Calculated criminals often share traits: extreme patience, obsessive attention to detail, and an uncanny ability to read and predict human behavior. But beyond these traits lies something deeper: an internal landscape shaped by isolation, resentment, or a profound need for control. In this case, the perpetrator exhibited signs of obsessive planning, ritualistic behaviors, and emotional detachment. They could observe fear without flinching, calculate risk without hesitation, and execute a plan without remorse. Psychologists describe such individuals as rare, yet frighteningly effective at exploiting human predictability. It is a chilling reminder: evil is not always chaotic. Sometimes it is deliberate, calculated, and terrifyingly normal. The case of Sarah Bennett remains a haunting example of the limits of our understanding. A calculated mind, operating in plain sight, can manipulate, observe, and strike without warning. We can study, theorize, and analyze, but some aspects of human behavior remain beyond comprehension. What drives a person to commit such an act? Can anyone truly understand the complexity of another human mind? These questions linger, unanswered, as we reflect on the fragility of safety, trust, and routine. Thank you for listening. Consider the patterns in your own life, the routines we take for granted, and the minds that watch from the shadows. And as always, think carefully, because not every danger announces itself in daylight.